Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. Today, we're going to be looking at a piece by OpenAI's DALL-E II. It's actually a generative art program that just had its recent private release, I believe, in the past 2 months. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about a little bit about this split perspective. We're going to talk about color-based rarity, and then we're also going to talk about the profound power of DALL-E II. So, let's jump right into it. So, whenever you first see this piece, you're likely going to be drawn towards this area, and that's because of course, through contrast placement, but also because the center region is split into kind of two distinct regions of the spatial composition. And this, of course, really kind of sets the tone for our attention to be drawn towards there, because if there is a distinct line here in the middle, then that already separates the region into kind of two different regions that you're going to be going back and forth from. And so what we'll also see is that your eye is likely going to be first drawn to the red there. And the red, of course, is a very visceral color, and it is a very highly attentive color as well. So whenever you see the color red, it's likely going to draw your attention with absolute ease. It's normally the color that's going to be the first one that pops out to you and just pulls your attention or commands your attention right to it. And it's pretty interesting. Of course, this was created by an artificial intelligence, but even the AI knows just how striking of a color red is, and it really kind of layers that with complete mastery. So another thing I wanted to talk about was next I wanted to talk about the contrast within this work, and there's actually kind of multiple levels of contrast here. So if we were to start off, the poster itself is a light on dark contrast, but even here is a dark on light contrast, and then within that is a dark on light contrast, and then another light on dark contrast. So there's almost like 4 or 5 layers of complexity to this work, and it's really interesting because that kind of adds to the energy within the work, but it also adds a really dynamic visual experience. And I think those are both important whenever they kind of compare them in specificity. And so that contrast really emphasizes the form. Of course, it defines the form of our cyborg subject as well. That, of course, draws our attention as well in every single way possible. And so we see color-based rarity within this work, and I think it's a really, really good example of it. So we see, of course, it's kind of like this greenish gray color palette for most of it. And then here on the left region of the spatial composition, of course, where our eye is being drawn, is going to be that kind of course, if this grayish green is the foundation or the most common color, then blue would be the second most common, and then red would be the most rare color. So blue would be the second most rare or the second most common at the same time. And so what we see here, like I said, red is a really kind of highly attentive color. It's a very visceral color. It calls your attention with ease. And in this work, you see that red is used with that color-based rarity because red is the most rare color within this work. So our eye is drawn to that, and that, of course, elevates the importance of the element which the color is within. So we see the side profile of our subject here, of our cyborg subject, and because the red is on the side profile of our subject, that really elevates the importance of the subject and the element, of course, within spatial composition. That's really consistent for a lot of works. You know, if you look at it and you see a really rare color within the work, it's likely going to be calling your attention or trying to elevate the importance of that element within the piece. And so, I know we see that here, and it's so interesting because we see multiple layers of contrast, multiple layers of color-based rarity. We see the use of red, and then we also see how this red really adds to the vibrancy of the work at hand. So red is not just calling your attention through the highly attentive nature of its color tones, but it's also calling your attention. And so it's pretty interesting because the color red, of course, it calls your attention, but it really also adds to the vibrancy of the color palette. I think the neon tones of the kind of light values within this piece also really add to that as well. Really vibrant, really energetic visual experience, and that's so hard to miss. The light within this work really drives that and it really pulls you in with absolute ease. So we could be seeing a pretty good example of the future of consumer media. And what I mean by that is we're seeing programs like DALL-E II, Disco Diffusion, and Midjourney all really sending waves throughout the design world and the world of art as a whole. And you know, there's a lot of discussions on what these programs will do. Some people will think that it'll put people out of jobs. Other people think that it will. I'm in the second example. I think that it will just work alongside our creative potential to, you know, help us create the things that we are imagining, and then kind of use that as an even greater starting point so we can create even greater things. So I'm not someone who believes that OpenAI will put artists out of business, I also don't want people to think that art is some type of competitive game. Because once you see art as a competition, then you're going to lose a lot of the magic and the inspiration that comes from creation. So, with that in mind, I think we could see a pretty good example of kind of the future of consumer culture, or the future of consumer media. We see all these big companies are really trying to compete to push the precipice of technological evolution, because many of them, have the potential to put them out of business if they don't adapt to the constantly changing landscape. And so I actually got the title of this piece is a futuristic cyborg poster hanging in a neon lit subway station. And the reason this is important is because this is what was put into DALL-E II in order to generate this piece. And so DALL-E II, of course, is created by OpenAI, and it just had its recent private release, I believe about within the past 2 months. And so OpenAI their DALL-E II is incredible, because all you have to do is put in a word, a phrase, or a theme or anything, and it'll create the piece right before your eyes. So just look at how well it created this piece. So we asked a futuristic cyborg poster hanging in a neon lit subway station. So we kind of had 3 different elements to that. Of course, you have a futuristic cyborg poster. Sorry, my lines are not very straight. Hanging, of course, the act of hanging, and then in a neon lit subway station. So there's kind of like 3 elements to that, and those all really combine to create the final visual experience that we see here. And so, you see a futuristic cyborg poster. Of course, there we are, hanging in a neon lit subway station. We see the subway station. We see kind of that neon lighting in there that we talked about, that really fluorescent visual energy. And then, of course, it's in a subway station. So a futuristic cyborg poster hanging in a neon lit subway station. And so this is what we got from the DALL-E II. It's absolutely incredible. It blows my mind. This is, as far as I can tell, the most advanced image creation tool that we have for AI generative art, and it's quite remarkable. So, if you look down here, of course, the AI didn't get the subway 100%. These windows are kind of warped, and they're not 100% accurate. But, if you're kind of standing back and looking at this work, hell, I'm fooled by it. So, just a really, really cool piece. And I thought we could learn a lot by studying DALL-E II. And so there's actually going to be an upcoming release of our DALL-E II gallery. I'm really, really excited for that. More info on that to come. But this is the second piece that we'll be adding to that collection. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Go check out some of DALL-E II's other creations. There's a bunch of pieces being generated, day in and day out. People are always on that thing. We talked a little bit about color-based rarity. We talked about this kind of neon-like color palette. And then we also talked about the profound power of DALL-E II. Hope you guys enjoyed. My name is Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.